Hi, welcome to another episode of Agent versus Lender. And today we have with us Cari Duncan, who is the principal broker at Rise Up Real Estate. And I've known Cari for a few years now, and she's really bubbly, really knows her stuff. It's always fun to talk to Cari. So welcome, Cari.
Thanks, Ron. Well, it's always fun to talk to you too. I appreciate that introduction. That's very nice. Thank you.
Well, we're going to try and keep this fairly short today. So we are going to talk a little bit about investing. We're going to talk about what the market's doing. We're going to talk about maybe some fears that maybe some buyers, sellers have, and we'll see where that takes us. Is that okay?
Yep, that sounds
Cool.
Great.
So the market's been really weird lately. We're in 2022, coming out of COVID. COVID kind of took a hit with the market, and then real estate went nuts, and now it's kind of shifting again. So where do you see the market, where we're at, where we've been, where are we going?
Well, where we're at is definitely what I would call a true shift. From my understanding, being in real estate 7 years, there's a lot of shifts that cycle roughly every 7 to 10 years. It seems to be a thing. So this is kind of one of my ultimate real first shifts where I'm like, whoa, we just went from this extreme to this extreme. And that is really a lot. It's overwhelming for all agents, I think. And so really where I would say we're at now in this shift is that I think everyone's worried we're going into a recession. I feel it's more of what they would call a correction. We were just way too extreme this way. And so it wasn't that it was bad or that it wasn't real what was happening. It's just that it was too much and it just couldn't keep up the pace, right? Yeah. So our lovely feds decided to put a stop to that because they know the way to stop it naturally will take way too long. And the way to stop that is tons more inventory, which will bring prices down and all that good stuff. So they said, that's fine. We'll just raise the rates, like double them, so that we take away about 40% of your buyers, which is rough. But at the same time, that now makes the houses that are coming on or already were on when this happened just sit. And by way of natural process, they start to price reduce and they price reduce. And then they end up selling down here now. Now that's your new comp for the next listing and so on and so forth. So it's a process. It's going to take a minute to get back to more balance, I guess, or normalcy of what we saw before. And it's really hard to explain that to people because they just have so much fear in it. Like, we're going to crash. Don't buy right now. It's still too high. When in fact, it's probably like a really fantastic time to buy, in my opinion. You finally can negotiate again, get houses at the right pricing. Buyers can get help with their closing costs. So that helps first-time home buyers. Like, there's a lot of good things that are happening. I get the rates are high, but it's all relative. If you're getting the house more down here, then that higher rate it all equals out. Sure. You know that world super well. So I think it's about education, but that's where your market's at right now. Where it was, in my opinion, was just outright chaos. I helped sellers and buyers during that market very equally and actively. And it was an honest answer would be that I loved helping sellers. I was like, this is so great. I have 7 listings and they're all going to sell in a day and for over asking. And I didn't even hardly do anything, I felt like. And it was just a really weird phase, but so great. And then I would go to help buyers and it was just this really stressful anxiety feeling for yourself and then for them, because Sure. You knew that, this is going to be a long process to get you a house.
Right. So we're definitely in a shift. So we're coming out of chaos into a market where house prices are declining a little bit. why, why do you think the house prices, I know that the interest rates have gone up, but why are people hesitant to buy right now?
So I've had a couple people say it to me. The reason they're hesitant to buy right now is because they still feel they're a little bit high enough that if they buy and then heaven forbid a crash happens, they're in this house way too high still, and the rates are high, and their mortgage is high, and they just get nervous because of that reason. Because if something does shift, dramatically this way, then we're in trouble, right? We
Yeah.
just bought this here and now it's here, like a 2008 thing. However, I am not an expert. I don't know that anyone knows, but I don't believe that's anywhere near what we're in. We're truly just correcting some things. So I try to explain that, but I think that's a lot of what people's fears in buying a regular, home for themselves to live in right now. They imagine that that's going to just crash on them, and then they're in this house too high. So
I'm going to touch on that just real quickly. So the fear of buying too high, is real, but I think it's misinformed. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the cycles of real estate, by and large, real estate increases. There are times in history where real estate has gone down, such as in 2007 when we had that bubble and had the crash. And which, by the way, I don't believe we're in a bubble.
no,
Totally another conversation. But
right.
if somebody wants to know, talk to Cari, talk to me. We could probably tell you why. But going back to the fear is that if they buy now, and let's say the values do decrease. So let's look at history. And in 2007, it took, I think, 4 years for the housing market to come back to where it was. And like, it's just gone up since. So 4 years. So even if they bought at the bottom if they bought just before the crash happened, yeah, they were upside down on their house for 4 years, but it doesn't matter unless you're selling the house. Who cares? Because you're living in a house, you can afford the payment. Who cares if it's upside down? History shows that the market tends to come back, and at some point you're not going to be upside down again. So why it's upside down, it doesn't matter. The only time it matters is if you're planning on selling during that time. It's the only time.
So I couldn't agree more with you. That's actually been one of my answers to people. Well, do you plan to live in this house for 10 years, or is it real ultimately or forever home? Well, yeah, then it's irrelevant, right? I mean,
Right.
really, it's irrelevant for that reason, because you're never going to change that real estate does this. It's a roller coaster. So it's never going to be just a great steady market for years to come. It's always going to shift up and down, up and down. And so you're right. If you're not selling it in a year from now, then what are you worried about? That's kind of how I see it.
Right. And you had mentioned interest rates. So if interest rates seem a little bit high right now, I know they're higher. We've been really spoiled.
Yes.
We've been spoiled for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
so this will date me a little bit, but when I got out of high school, interest rates were double digit, like in the teens, like
Oh,
they were high. They were
yeah.
high. So, and I know that was then, this is now. And even if interest rates come down, so what? Refinance. We all do it. Refinance, get a lower rate, get a lower payment. And if interest rates go up, okay, well, you got a better rate than where they're at now. So like find the house that you want to build dreams in, and quit worrying about, am I hitting the bottom of either the price or rates? Just stop worrying about that.
Yes. That is a really good one to drive home. I think that's probably what you could relay best to everyone. Don't worry about things that you really have no control over.
There you go.
Why you're going to kill yourself over it. We all could do that all the time, but I get it. It's a financial decision. It's important to people, but at the same time, if they're following that pattern of, this is my forever home, I'm going to be here for a longevity, then why are you stressed about it? Yeah. Like, don't ruin your life over it, because
Right.
you're never going to know what it does. So Yeah.
So, and I think that goes the same thing for investing as well. So, and I know that you and your husband have started doing some investing and started looking at that. And so talk to me about investing in real estate and why that's such a great option.
So what I would say ultimately is that we wanted, before I even became an agent, he always wanted to invest. He always wanted rental properties, all these things. And for years, I've been an agent and access to all sorts of things, and we've never invested. Well, last year when things really like went up and inflated, I mean, in a positive way, right? If you wanted to resell a house, we decided maybe we take our chances and capitalize on the current market climate and try to flip a house. But not flip a house, renovate a home, like do it beautifully, like you would do your own home, do it the right way, really truly get the highest and best value out of it and see how it goes. So we actually flew to Palm Springs because we were wanting to buy a short-term rental there. We put a lot of time and energy there, and then we didn't even end up buying in Palm Springs. And we came back, and about 1st of September, I was looking in Saratoga Springs, which was so random. I just was on the MLS. I'm like, this is it. We got to buy this house. And my husband looked at it. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, we can't short-term rent that. It's in an HOA. We can't do this. We can't. I said, no. Well, let's flip it. Let's try it. Let's flip it. Well, it was a lake house on Utah Lake on the 8. It was awesome, but it needed help. So we had never done this before, Ron. We were so in the dark. It wasn't even funny. But we went in with my dad. My dad's awesome. He loves real estate. He's like, I'm doing it with you. I'll go in. So we went in, we bought it, and we just sort of sat there for a minute like, holy crap, we just bought a $760,000 house. Like, we don't know contractors, we don't know anyone. And so we just started doing our own research. We found our own people, we subbed it, turned it around, and we turned it around in about it was about 2 months, I guess. Put it on the market in the beginning of November, and we sold it for $950,000.
Nice.
Yeah, but the best part I loved about it, because of such a weird current market at the time, was it truly appraised. Like, it was an appraisal done on it, and it appraised for over $950. So we were pretty proud of that, because we're like, hey, this isn't like a fake inflated property. Like, we did. So then, of course, we had to drive, and we're like, oh, okay, let's do another one. So we did. We found one in Draper, did the same thing. That was a lot bigger caliber of a home. It was 856,000, and we turned it for 1.3. And it was so cool. That one was super fun. And then we did another one in West Valley, and it was even worse, like a rebuild. We didn't know what we were doing. And long story short, we did 3 in 7 months, and we got out right before the market shifted. So that's what I would want to drive home to people, is that the fear is real, that what if we get in and then this happens? Or what if, we're in the middle of this and then the market changes? Well, that's real. Like, that can happen in an instant. However, there's always going to be something that you're afraid of. There's always going to be something going on in the economy, something going on in the world that makes you feel like, oh, not right now. Oh, they're going to raise the rates again. Like, there's always something that just can make you stop and say, next year, we'll try next year. We'll see what it looks like. It's never just a perfect climate. So my advice would be that you look at what's shifting and what's happening currently and capitalize on that section of real estate. And then whatever the shift does, you can still invest, but now what section is important, and capitalize on that. Maybe it's not flips right now, right? Like, you just sort of have to determine what it is that's good right now and do that. So that's kind of what we learned in our journey of investing. Like, that was good for then, not so good for now. But this, and this is, so let's do that, so that you don't have to stop and wait for the market to as people say, calm down or whatever they think it's going to do. I don't know, but it's not. It's just shifting, and it is what it is. So yeah, that would be kind of my outlay of investing and how we got started in it.
Okay, I'm going to add to that. So one is you learned about a lot of things on your own.
Yeah.
The nice thing is like, if you're listening to this and you want to do some type of investing, don't go out on your own. Like Cari has experience in the real estate market, and don't do that. Like call Cari and let her walk you through what she's learned and use her experience so that you don't have to fall trap to some of these things that that other people are. And the second thing that I probably would add is, if you're an investor and you don't want to do flips, or if you're like a first-time home buyer, or just you're renting, even if you're not a first-time home buyer, buy a multi-unit property, buy a duplex, buy a triplex, buy a fourplex. And if you buy a fourplex, yeah, they're going to be a little bit more money, but you likely can have 3 of those units pay the entire mortgage, which means now you're living there for free. Right. So that's just another strategy of investing. And that's a great way to get to wet your feet in real estate investing, is just buy one and live in it and rent the other units out. And then it's free.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, that somebody else is paying your mortgage, right? They're deflating and depreciating that debt that you have there. I learned that today. We were at an investor panel. It was so cool to listen to all these people that we have here locally in Utah that are very well-versed in all kinds of investing, but they're so smart and they just are so simple at the same time. You're like, we don't need to make this super complex or confusing. It really is as simple as you just said. Buy something that can take care of your mortgage for you, or like you said, maybe live in it and live there for free, or maybe 3 of them pay your mortgage and the other one is cash flow, passive income. It's just another form of investing as opposed to getting a lump sum up front. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's not always good.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I was just went water skiing this morning, and one of the guys on the boat said that he has multi properties. It's not like he's got hundreds of them, but I think he's probably got 7 or 8, maybe as many as 10. I don't remember. I didn't listen to the number, but what I did listen to is his net income from that, net, not gross, his net. So what he's pocketing every single month, $7,000 a month. So it's just like, you could build a retirement income on this and live really well.
Yes. And I think that's partly like, it's all ingrained in us, I think, by society and how in general we're all raised, that society says you do this way. You go, you get your full degree, you work at a corporate job, you do this, you put into retirement, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I've known my whole life, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. However, that's where the fear comes from, because everyone goes, well, that's not sustainable, or that's not going to take care of you, or how are you going to do retirement, or how are it's all there. It's all very, very lucrative and very possible. But really has to start in our minds. We just have to let some of that fear go, because fear, it just never really gets any of us anywhere, and we never step out of our comfort zone. And I was so proud of my husband for doing it, because he has always been, we always tease and say he's analysis paralysis.
I get that way too.
I'm such a nut job. I'm like, do that. Yeah, we should have done. Yeah, buy that, do that. Like I would do it in a second. So we're really good together, because he definitely is the more organized, level-headed person. So I'm grateful for that. But when he stepped out, I think he realized, wait a second, I can do this and still do, his really great job that he does. And maybe eventually it can allow him to step out of that, and he'll really know what he's doing and see that it actually works. So you have to do it to know it, right? Like you can't learn unless you do, but that's where the jumping off the cliff comes in. And that's scary to do that and not know what it's going to do or what's going to happen or what the result will be. And I would imagine there's going to be several times that you fail heavily or like, oh, shoot, I lost money on that, or, but that's just life with anything. So, it's not a real estate thing, but I feel it's definitely a fear factor for people. We were that as well. So nothing's wrong with anyone if they feel that way. That's very normal. It's just been really cool to actually do it and see how it works and how it works in your life. And it just really does motivate you to do more, and that you can like, oh, wow, we can do that. We're just average people, but hey, look at that. Like we did that. So it's good. I think it's great for people to feel like they can do that too.
What comes to mind is don't take advice from people that aren't doing what you want to do, because if they aren't doing that, most people are going to be naysayers because they don't understand it. There's risk involved. They don't like the risk. So you talk to people that are doing what you want to do, and you'll find out, really, is this the risk you want to take? And you'll often find out that risk is not as bad as you think it is.
Right. That's a good way. Yes, that's what I want to relay. And that's true. It really isn't what you've built up in your mind. Because we've always been told that's a like, no, right? Like, don't do that because it might not be supported well by what happens, and it might not be a guarantee, and it might not, so people are very afraid of stuff like that really isn't just a comfort zone thing.
Yeah.
But it might be, yeah,
but
right?
But it
might. So you got it's really hard when you think like that to just take the it's funny because I was just telling Chris that here's the problem. Now we're wanting to buy a buy and hold, and some buy and holds and short-term rentals. Those are even more scary to me than the flips, because in my opinion, I have more power and knowledge on the flip right up front, right? Because I can comp it. I can look at what's going around, and I do real estate, so I feel comfortable with that. Rental, that's one of those you're going to have to buy and do it before you can say, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's really scary to do when you're purchasing, big pieces of property and then going, geez, I hope that out. But I guess that's where my brain thinks different. And I say, so what if it doesn't? Oh, short-term didn't rent out. No problem. Long-term rent it. Oh, that doesn't work out. No problem. Sell it. Just see it as there's always a way, right? There's always a way with whatever's going on, if you are familiar with real estate, and it's not so scary. That's what I've taught myself and learned that, okay, yeah, maybe that doesn't work out. So what? Long-term rent it, try that or whatever it is. And you can shift to that. So
cool. Was there anything else you want to talk about?
Oh gosh, I would just say the only thing I wanted to say was, I was telling you at the beginning, I've just got a lot of family and friends and clients and past clients asking, should we buy and sell real estate right now? Should we list home? Things like that. The one answer I would give to kind of end it out would be, for agents, I would say to agents right now in this shift, you just have to be really transparent with your client. You've got to educate them. You've got to explain that your house isn't going to sell in a day with multiple offers, probably going to have some price drops, sit on the market. If you do that up front, then I have found by doing that over time that the client never comes back to me and says, well, geez, Cari, why didn't you tell me that? Or why are we doing this now? It's made the transition much easier, and they understand then the market like you do. So they're going into it educated. So I would tell that to realtors, is really learn what's happening right now so you can relay it to the client properly, because that's the disconnect is real, and it's not fun when that happens. So the other thing I would say to the seller side or buyers, sellers, this is not a market that is a realtor's fault. If your house isn't selling and it's sitting on the market, and you've even done everything right and your realtor's done everything right, don't blame the realtor. I'm seeing that so much right now, and I think it's a real thing. And it's really not in the realtor's control to most extents. Like, it honestly is the market climate. And so as soon as you realize that, the easier the process will be instead of blaming everything. Right. So that would be the last thing I'd say on that. And then just to everyone, I would say buying right now is just as good as any time. Like Ron said, don't be scared of the rates. Don't be scared of, if they drop or if they lift or if they, stay stagnant. Realistically, if your buying situation is that you're buying a forever home or a home to live in yourself, then enjoy that and go buy it. You know what I mean? And as long as it works for you, it shouldn't be such a scary thing right now. Change is scary to people. This happened really fast. And I will say that, like, it definitely was like a very abrupt shift. I've never seen anything quite like it in all the years. But now that it's calmed down a little, we can like sift through it and say, okay, this is your best option for buying and this is your best option for selling. And if you have an educated, agent or someone to help you with that, I would imagine paired with a good lender, you should be just fine. That's really what I would want to drive home to people. Like, don't not buy real estate right now. Buy and then wait. Don't wait to buy. It's a quote I heard today at the investor panel, and I thought it was so great and so true. Waiting to buy, I don't really see how that's going to accomplish anything. If you're truly looking to buy a home right now and have the ability, I would say buy and then wait and just, simmer down on all that a little bit and see what happens. So,
totally concur with that.
yeah.
So you had just mentioned about making sure you get paired with a good realtor. So what's the best way for people to reach you?
So through Facebook is great. I actually speak to people so much through there. Just Cari Duncan on Facebook. Also by email and phone number that I have on my page, along with my website, which is in my bio on Facebook. So all my contact info is there. I think that's my best hub that a lot of people can get a hold of me. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks for being with us today, Cari.
Thanks, Ron, for having me. I always enjoy talking with you.
Yeah. So if you need to get hold of a lender, you can give me a call. Ron Pippin. My phone number is 801-628-7667. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that kind of stuff too. So you can find me there.
And I can attest to Ron for you. I've used Ron many times. Ron is fantastic. So
thank you.
Definitely do that.
Thank you. All right. Well, that will bring to close another episode of Agent versus Lender.